You're listening to The Pivot Point, where we unpack the defining moments that shift careers and lives. I'm your host, Laura Dionisio, founder of Lead Intact, and my mission is to spotlight the raw, real stories behind career pivots, the fears, the hopes, the messy middles, and the bold decisions that follow. If you're feeling stuck or quietly wondering what's next, I hope these stories help you see yourself a little more clearly and inspire you to start moving toward your own dream life. Let's begin. Welcome, Shanna, to the Pivot Point podcast. Shanna's a really good friend of mine. If you follow me on social media at laura.m.dionisio, you know that Shanna and I occasionally make these fun videos. I'm so excited, y'all, to have Shanna here today. Thank you, Shanna, for agreeing to be on my podcast.
You're welcome. Can you hear me now? Thank you for having me. This is so exciting.
Okay, so before we get into it, I'm going to read Shanna's amazing bio so that you all can get to know her beyond the banana microphone and the pen microphone and the silliness that naturally comes up anytime the two of us are together. If you want seriousness, don't put us in the same room. Okay.
That's right.
Okay, here we go. Coach Shanna Stevens is a dynamic, holistic life coach, licensed educator, and sought-after speaker known for her infectious sunshine energy. With a passion for empowering individuals to unlock their fullest potential, Coach Shanna blends her educational background with unique holistic tools to guide clients toward meaningful transformation. As a podcast guest, she brings a wealth of knowledge and a warm, engaging presence that inspires listeners to embrace their journey to emotional wellness and self-discovery. Whether discussing the inner child, the healthy adult, personal growth, or the importance of balance, Coach Shanna infuses every conversation with intuition and a healthy adult perspective alongside actionable insights. When she's not coaching or speaking, Shanna enjoys exploring nature and cultivating connections that uplift and inspire her. Join her on a journey of enlightenment and empowerment to discover how to bring more sunshine into your life. Thank you so much for being here, Shanna Banana. Okay, real talk. This is how I actually start all of my conversations with Shanna. We send each other text messages, social media reels and voice messages. And I always start with Shanna Banana, Shanna Banana.
So fun to get in that energy when people close to me call me banana, and when they call me that, it's like, oh, here comes the play. Mm-hmm. We're gonna start playing. So
yeah,
I love it.
Let's start there because we've known each other. Can you believe this, Shanna? We've known each other for 5 years.
Has it been that long? That's crazy to me. It feels like forever. It feels like longer than 5 years to me.
It does. And at the same time, it's like it's been 5 years. It's just, I don't know. When you meet a soul sister, a playmate, it just seems like forever.
Yeah, it does.
It does. Yeah.
And time doesn't even exist. When we're in play, time goes by so fast. Mm-hmm. Time doesn't even exist when we're in play.
Yeah. So let's talk about that, the play, because the play, all caps, capital T, capital P, the play. So Shanna and I have known each other for 5 years, but we didn't start what I call play. I'm putting playing in quotes, but it's not in quotes. We didn't start playing together, even though we don't live in the same city, let alone the same state, until probably a year ago or a few months ago?
I would say a year. And it's been a year.
It's been a year, right?
Yeah, because that play, I remember that play, for me, it helped me go through some grief. Mm-hmm. It helped me process some emotions. The play actually helped me come back to myself. Mm-hmm. Through going through what I was going through, and to be able to laugh was so healing for me.
Only as much as you are open and willing to, would you mind taking us through what was happening in that point? Because I know this is the pivot point, but truly the play and fun, it sounded like it helped you in that particular pivot. It helped me as well, but I would love to hear, and for the listeners to understand, what was going on in your life and how did play, especially play with me, with somebody else, really help you?
Yes. I'm pretty transparent about what I went through, because I know I'm not the only one that has gone through something similar. I was in a relationship, and because of codependency and low self-worth, I lost myself. I lost myself completely to the point where I couldn't even show up for anybody. I couldn't show up for them. I couldn't show up for me. And I was in a dark place, and I ended up leaving that relationship. I was certain about where I was going, what I was doing. In fact, I remember asking my spirit guides, I have to have a place to live outside this relationship. What do I do? And I was driving up towards the mountains to literally just sit and feel my feelings. And up on the side of the road, the last house before I got to the mountains was a log cabin. And there just happened to be a for rent sign in the window. So I went and knocked on the door, and this lady comes to the door looking like my grandmother, my maternal grandmother. And it was so strange. I said, hey, I'm curious about this for rent sign. And she's like, hey, my husband will show you up to your apartment. It was just like, oh, okay, that's strange. But I ended up connecting with these homeowners, the landlords, the log cabin. There's horses out front. It's such a beautiful place to come to and heal. It was $200 under my budget. Everything was included. This beautiful log cabin. You could kind of see the arches behind me, and it's just full of wood. And so I was divinely guided to this place to heal, this dark place I was in. And I intentionally didn't put a TV in here. So there's no TV. I literally was with puzzles. I was with books. I was with my thoughts and my feelings, with a cup of tea, some coffee. And I remember being in fetal position on the couch and crying and so much emotional pain and agony. And I was like, who am I? What am I doing? And I remember feeling lost. I remember feeling hopeless, confused. And one of the points for me was I was doom scrolling, what I call doom scrolling, just kind of flipping through my social media. And there was something that made me laugh. I don't know if it was an animal or a baby. Something made me laugh. And I was like, oh my gosh, that felt so good to laugh out loud. I want more of that. And so I looked more for that. In fact, I think that was the time when the trend was, you make the sound, I make the face. I was like, we got to do this, Laura. Let's do this. Oh my gosh. And we had so much fun doing that. And that literally gave me something to look forward to laugh and play with you. And then we ended up making fun of ourselves with our singing bowls and our chimes around Thanksgiving. And I laughed and laughed. And it really helped pull me out of that dark place. But then I was able to have a little bit of hope, because I was able to feel the grief, feel the pain, and then know that there's something on the other side of that. So that laughter was a big pivot point for me in that dark place that I was in.
Yeah. And you know what I love about this too is because I didn't even know in the beginning that, Shanna, that you were in a dark place, that you were going through I was going to say relationship pivot, but a life pivot. And here's the thing. I have a lot of clients coming to me, initially asking me for help in their career. And then later we talk about the relationship. And so that's why I think this is an important topic. I know like this is the pivot point with career, but let's be honest, like life be life. And life isn't like, oh, okay, let's just focus on career. I know relationship pivots happen, And so I bring that up because for me, Shanna just sent me like this is what we would do, because we live in different cities, different time zones. We would send each other videos, and we didn't know what the other was going to send. And to Shanna's point, I also was just like, I'm so excited to get my work done. I think I was still working in corporate at the time. And this is what the time, like for me personally, looking back, I was in denial of the pivot that my heart wanted, which is to leave corporate. So I was kind of in like a quiet space, like uneasy though. And so, not wanting to really do my work, blaming myself, feeling lazy, feeling unmotivated, like that's just that cycle. But when Shanna and I started playing, it was like, oh, I can't wait to finish this. Actually, I see that she sent me a video. If I finish this task, I get to watch it and then I get to respond, you know?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
yeah.
that was a
And
big turning point for you. I remember that. And just sending each other random videos and then playing off of the video that was sent, it sparked creativity, spontaneity, which is from our child, right? So we were able to tune into our inner child, give that inner child play again, spontaneity again, joy, laughter. And it really helped create more healing.
huge, because I didn't even realize I was in a slump until we were playing and I noticed I started being excited again about my business. You know, remember, I was just kind of like, wow, this was so fun. And then you opened up to me with what was happening. You mentioned inner child quite a bit. And for the listener who was like, I don't understand the hype with this whole inner child stuff, why is that important? And what is the inner child?
Love it. This is one of my favorite questions I get. What is the inner child? When people say past is behind you, it's not. Past is in you. So the inner child is literally from when we're ages 0 to 6 years old. And that's when we are so vulnerable, where there's no discernment at this age, and everything around us we try to take in as what is true for us. So that then becomes our navigational system when we're adults. And let's say mom is cooking dinner and the baby's crying and mom's trying to get everything taken care of around her and the baby's needs. Mom ends up putting baby down on the floor to get other things done, but baby doesn't realize mom's not coming back. And so it creates some neglect or abandonment, some kind of wounding. That wounding goes with us into our adult phase of life, unless we go back and we reparent ourselves. And there's something really big happening right now as people are going to do their inner work or inner child work. They're able to go back and literally give that little one what they never got. And it wasn't no blame on our parents of any kind. Our parents did the best they could. And I love my parents for what they did for me. But they didn't know. They didn't know what they didn't know. Sometimes trying to help break a baby's sleep pattern is leaving him to cry in the crib at night. And yes, that can help one way, but in another way, it's creating some kind of wounding or pain points for that child. And then that's what we get to take a look at as we get older. So that inner child is so sensitive, so important. We all have it. If you're human, you have an inner child or a few inner children is what I like to call them. That is just wanting our attention. So does that make sense?
It does. It sounds like it's really the path towards healing. And you mentioned earlier that it's the path where your true creativity lies. And just to give some practical examples for the listener, because they might be like, okay, I hear you, but, I don't know. In the moment when we first started sending those videos, we even wrote a song. We co-wrote a song, which maybe I'll add to the end of this podcast. We'll see how I feel.
That's a great idea.
Yeah. You know what? Yeah, let's do that. But give a practical example of how us basically letting our inner child play helped you in this post-relationship pivot. Like, what happened after?
That play, I realized, brought a sense of safety. The laughter brought in, I'm safe to laugh. I'm safe to extend myself to you, to start being creative. That's really what the turning point was for me. Is I felt safe. I felt joy. I felt creativity. It was just, never saw that coming.
Yeah, especially since you were describing that you were crying in fetal position on the sofa.
Yeah, so painful, so dark, so hard, such a hard place. And then through the doom scrolling, not that that's my go-to tool, but at that time, that was pivotal for me to find myself joy, laughing at what I consider the dumbest things, the silliest things animals do or babies do or children. And because that's what it was, I was watching a child being silly to an adult, but to them, they were just being themselves by saying something or doing something that we would say it was wrong or incorrect. They were just being authentically them. That brought me so much joy to watch that authenticity. And I was like, that's what that feels like.
Mm-hmm. And what it sounds like to me, first, you emphasize that the safety was important within yourself, but also to reach out to me, the joy, the creativity. It really sounds like you created space. And I just want the listener to know it's not that we replaced, not like Shanna replaced her grief and all that with this. So can you talk to us about what was that like holding both the grief and all that while playing? Like, how is that possible? Because I can see a listener being like, no, I don't see how you can play and be sad at the same time.
That's a great question. So to hold both at the same time or not, what if it's not holding both at the same time? For me, I was chin deep in the grief pain and searching for a way to feel different. And so going to my phone, not something I would do is go to my phone for an answer or a tool. At one of the darkest moments, that was the energy I had, was to pick up my phone and move my thumb. And that was it. So to hold both at the same time, I would say I was able to do one while I explored another. And then as the exploration continued, the joy started to grow. And then the grief started to not be covered up, but I was able to feel through the grief quicker because the joy and the laughter propel that.
I just quoted you. I was like, let me write this down. Okay, I have to repeat it. It was so good. I've got goosebumps. The joy allowed you to explore the grief you were feeling. And as you did that, the joy grew and it allowed you to feel through grief quicker.
That's really good. I just got chills.
High five. Mic drop with the banana. I think that's the beautiful thing about when we started this is I didn't expect this.
It's true. We didn't even have it planned out.
Nope.
It's just like, what are we feeling next? Such a bright, shining moment on the other side of that. You know, my relationships with my coworkers changed. My relationships with my landlord changed. My relationships with my neighbors and friends and family changed because of allowing to feel that dark despair and not hide it or not push it down, but to spotlight it with the joy and recognize, hey, I went through some pain. I went through some grief and loss, and I claimed that. I owned that. And because I did that, I was able to move it through, and it doesn't sit in me anymore. It's not here. Joy is here. In the conversations that I've had with people, they're like, you're different. I was like, I hope so, man. I went through some stuff. And this is what's cool. They physically saw a difference in me because I wasn't carrying that grief.
Say more about that.
So to carry that grief was so heavy that it landed me on the couch or on the floor on my bed, not able to move. It was that heavy. So when you physically see somebody going through grief, they don't look happy. Their eyes, their skin, there's a different tone or a different energy about someone just is carrying that. So when they said, you look different, there's something about you, that was validation to me that I did it.
Oh, so good, Shanna. And there was a light at the end, right? Like, tell us more, like, what changed? We did the play thing. You started opening up more, flowing emotions more. What was the light at the end of this tunnel, at the end of this pivot? What happened afterwards?
I ended up spotlighting myself. I literally changed my hairstyle.
You did?
Differently. Yeah. Because that version of me, I didn't know. I didn't recognize anymore. And so I ended up being lighter, more playful, enjoyable person. People were like, you seem lighter through this. So in the end, it was me at the end.
I love that. And because you spotlighted yourself, Shanna may not brag, but I will brag for her. In Shanna spotlighting herself, I know a lot of people commented, like on social media, on LinkedIn, like, you look different. Something's different about you. And Shanna's like, oh, it's my hair, of course. And they're like, no, there's something else. There's something else.
True.
And weren't you also asked to be a speaker? Like, after you were like in this energy. So tell us more. How did that happen? See, like, she's not going to brag, but this is what friends are for.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I had an opportunity to become a the keynote speaker and share a little bit more about the tools that I used. And we literally spotlighted the inner child work through this keynote speaking opportunity. And I asked in advance to please have tissue sitting around the tables around the room. And there was probably 50, 60 people in the room as I did an inner child script with them where they were literally visualizing themselves as a child and then bringing them with them. And half the room, I'm not kidding you, half the room was tears. And I had a handful of them stay afterwards to get more questions answered. They said that they've never had the permission to cry, let alone cry in a full room of people.
Yeah, give context. Like, sorry to interrupt, but like give context for the listeners in case they're thinking, oh, this was like a life coach retreat or whatever.
No,
give context. It wasn't.
This was an annual wellness workshop conference that they've had other speakers come in and talk about wellness. And they said, one of the directors said to me, so it's quite common that they have similar topics and similar things happening every year. Do you have anything different that you can do for them?
And this was a corporation, yes. Right? Like this wasn't in the life coaching space. That's what I wanted to let the listeners know.
This is the corporate world. Yeah, this wasn't life coaching. This is your everyday man, woman going to work. I don't think they realized what they were coming to when they saw, I call it from knowing to doing. So they knew the information, but they didn't know how to do. So what we did is we tapped into that inner child and then they started feeling something. So to do is in your body. To know is in your mind. So we went from knowing to doing. Once they started feeling something around that child energy, I gave them tools. We went through tools to tap back into that to help change mindset. You change mindset through feeling different, not just knowing, but doing. And the people in the room were it was so simple. We took it childlike, so simple. All that child wants is a hug. Are they willing and open for a hug? Can you tell your child what you never got to hear? And throughout the room, I hear the sniffles and I start seeing people grab their Kleenexes, and just something as simple as that sparked something in them to make some changes. It was so powerful. It was so beautiful.
What is one tool that the listener can take that you shared? Just so like, they're like, I'm sold. This corporate, setting, inner child, people crying. What's one tool they can use starting today?
Ask yourself, how do I feel? First thing in the morning, how am I feeling? You give yourself permission to feel, you literally are going in a different direction. Or how am I feeling? You get asked to do something. How do I feel about that? So one tool, ask, how am I feeling? How do I feel?
I love that. So listeners, very simple tool. You can start after you finish listening to this amazing episode. How do I feel? How did I feel listening to Shanna share this story? I would also love to know, like, what are some of the things that you said people came up to you afterwards?
They did. So this was so beautiful. There was 3 sisters there that showed up at this workshop at the same time. They never do workshops together. They just happened to be in the same town and city and came to this conference, this workshop together. So 3 of them showed up afterwards, and one of them was in tears. And she's like, I feel like I wasn't enough for my sisters. I feel like I wasn't seen and heard. It was so heartbreaking. And as the person in front of her, I literally validated her and said, it sounds like you felt like you weren't heard and seen. And she's like, yeah. And her sister sitting next to her said, we had no idea you felt that way. And so it really created this little family reunion of come to Jesus type energy of, wow, we didn't know you felt that way. And she'd never cried in front of her sisters before. So she was giving herself full on permission to be vulnerable from her child in front of her sisters in this moment that she's never had before. And it was so beautiful and vulnerable. It was life change. She told me it was life changing to have the realization that she was able to give her little child in that moment permission to feel seen and heard. And then her sisters validated that we see you, we hear you.
What I love most about this is a lot of very success-oriented people, I'm going to raise my hand because I definitely was one of those, get so wrapped up in their career and doing better. And what I love about this story is that I'm sure many, if not all of the people came to this conference with the idea of how can I use whatever's taught to help me further my career. And what I love is that people came up afterwards to talk about how you made an impact. Because I think that's what us very success-oriented, high-performer people forget is we are human first. And it's so important to address, like Shanna sharing, inner child, like whatever you're feeling on the inside, whatever beliefs you may have picked up along the way. So I really, really love that story, Shanna.
Thank you. I like the where you bring in the high performer. There was a lot of high performers in that room. Yeah. And to watch them come to a tear in just a vulnerable place was very empowering. The other group that came up to me also said that it was very vulnerable or empowering to see people be in touch with their emotions. That right there was so empowering just to hear the feedback. So as a high performer, as high performers, like you said, we're human first. Inside humans are emotions, right? So what was it for you, Laura, as a high performer? At what point did you say, hey, I have emotions and feelings that are in there?
Mm-hmm. I liked to ignore my emotions. I'm like, this is not helping me climb the corporate ladder. So therefore, it doesn't matter. And I'm sharing this because I ignored it so much that it got to the point when I finally got some space, not because I created space, but because at the time, that's just the situation I was in. I started having physical manifestations. So this is why I always caution high performers. You think you're okay now, but at some point your body's going to be like, nope. And that's what happened to me is I started having panic attacks. I started being unable to breathe, just looking at my calendar. And of course, I hadn't done this work yet. This is the beginning of my journey. I was like inner child, like, why? But it was at that point where I was like, well, something has to change. Now, granted, my motivation was something has to change because this 10-minute anxiety attack is keeping me from my work. So my intention wasn't great. I'm just being real. But over time, like Shanna said, it's like I started discovering the childlike joy in things. I'm talking about looking at the snow. Like I'm talking about literally stopping and smelling the roses. And then it's like I woke up and I was like, what is all this for when I actually don't even feel great? That's weird. I guess my feelings were trying to tell me something. Imagine that.
Yeah. So it was a physical manifestation for you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm, because I was ignoring the whispers and the hints that my heart was trying to tell me.
Well, you had to get the thing done at the right time, at the right,
Yep. A++. I want to pivot, no pun intended, to basically why. So Shanna's a really good friend of mine, if it wasn't obvious. I wanted to pivot on like what we initially came in here to talk about, because I think it's really important for the listeners. Obviously, everything we talked about also like really, really good for the listeners. Both of us we're like mid-pivot after the pivot.
Yeah, I would say I'm right in the middle of the pivot.
Mm-hmm. After, and this is what I think is important for the listeners to hear. Sometimes you make that big pivot, you're like, aha, I'm on top of the world. And then you look up, you're like, another mountain.
Right.
So Shanna, tell us about this pivot, this mid-pivot, and how is it different from the last pivot, whether it's relationship, career, or whatnot?
Oh, this is so good. Oh, so yeah, relationship. So the relationship with my career is where I go with this. So the relationship with myself and others is what I just got done talking about. But the relationship with my career is literally, I'm in the middle of this. And I want to share a story here real quick while we're talking about this. I was hired in an organization for diversity, equality, inclusion, and the administration had changed and things had changed. And so many companies had to restructure. There was a lot of restructuring going on around this. And I had built a lot of improvements and things that were very positive, that the community was loving, the staff and employees were loving, and then came to a halt. And my last day in that organization was December 30th. So like a month ago. And knowing that was coming to an end, I found out about it halfway through the year, the organization was so grateful, so gracious to keep me on for a few months while I transitioned. And so I knew it was coming to an end. So I put myself out there in the resume world and nothing was landing. And so the closer it got to the end of December, I felt myself starting to get anxious. I started to feel the fear creeping in. And I was so curious. I was like, where is this fear coming from when I feel fully supported and I know I'm going to be okay? Where's this fear coming from? And so I was sitting in my office. Here's the story I'm going to share. I have this button, this cute little button. I was sitting in my office the last day that I was to be there, sitting with a coworker who I was training to take over some of my responsibilities. And I started to feel anxious again, and that anxiety come up. Whatever reason, I look down on the floor and I see this button on the floor. Now, I wasn't wearing anything that day that matched this button. My coworker wasn't wearing anything. There was nothing, no couches or chairs that carried this pattern. And she's like, "Ooh, there's a message in that for you. You should look that up." And I was like, "Oh, yeah, I tell everybody else to do that. Thank you for telling me." So I looked up random button found on the floor. What's the spiritual message of the random button found? And it came back to me and it said, one door closes, needs to close before another one can open. And I got chills throughout my whole body. She got chills. I started getting teary-eyed. She got teary-eyed and she says, there it is. You have to close this door before the next one can open. And it was so profound. And that brought so much peace into my body. She's like, you look different. Like, even after just that short message, something's different about you. You know what it was? It felt aligned. I felt alignment in knowing that one thing needed to close before the next opened. And that alignment brought me peace.
God, that's so good. That's so good.
So I hang on to this button as a reminder. There are doors closing as other ones are opening.
Oh my God. My heart feels so full. You know, what I love is that when I asked about what's different about this pivot compared to the previous, you were real. You didn't go straight to, I'm at peace. You took us through like the vulnerable moment of, yeah, I felt some fear. And what I'm hearing from you that the listeners can take from this is like, when you are aligned, it doesn't mean that you don't feel fear anymore. You still feel it. The difference is Shanna chose to turn to curiosity. Like, where is this coming from? Without trying to find an answer, without trying to solve it. And then Shanna was open to signs and messages. She then listened to her body where she felt alignment, and that's what led to peace.
Yes.
I love that.
And I love how you said that back to me. That was like, that's so good.
Yeah, because here's the thing. It's like, I can imagine the me of 10 years ago who's feeling the fear, because I very much was a little bit, I'm a recovering control freak, I'll admit it. And the thing is, the issue that I had before about the woo stuff is that I felt like, what, you just sit there, meditate, and it comes to you? But what I heard just now with Shanna, no, she's taking active choices. Now, I think the trouble sometimes with high performers, with, I don't know, the culture we're in, is we think action is sending out resumes, talking, like physical action. No, but Shanna took action. She chose to turn to curiosity. That's a choice. To be open. That's a choice. To listen when her coworker's like, you should look it up. You know, so all of these are active choices. And so I think the listener can take from this is, no, we're not just going to go sit at the mountain and meditate and wait for things to come. It's no, you have the opportunity to actively choose where your thoughts go, how you're feeling. And
beautiful.
Man, I'm inspired.
Thank you. I love that. You know, the old version of me took the word job. This is what was taught to me quite a few years ago. The word job was just over broke. J-O-B, just over broke. And they taught, you don't want to be in your typical J-O-B. You want to aspire and do things differently. And that came to me in the middle of this letting go before the next one comes. Someone recently said, it's like a trapeze person that's hanging on to one and letting go. There's a moment of time where there's no hanging on to any of it. You're in the middle of that. Mm-hmm. That's where I'm at right now, becoming. Something is coming, and so I get to be. So to become, I took the word J-O-B and I said, joyous opportunities becoming, and the energy has just totally shifted for me. So many opportunities are coming to me right now. I know I got chills all the way up in the back of my head, and it has been so fun just to see it different, to stay curious about it, to stay open, to just be.
I was going to ask you, like, any advice you want for somebody who's in the middle, but you just said it. That reframing, instead of just over broke to joyous opportunity becoming, that's it. I love it. For people who are like, I want more Shanna. I want to work with her. I want to be in her energy. I want to see what these playthings that Laura and Shanna are talking about. How can people find you and connect with you?
Yes. Be on the lookout on socials for our play and comment, jump in, enjoy with us. I'm on social. I'm on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook. Then shannastevens.com is my website. I do an inner child guide, a soul guiding questions. I've got a PDF out there. If they just email me, I can send it out to them. So
okay, love it. I'll put all of that in the show notes, listeners. Shanna, I have one last question that I ask all my guests. I'm very curious how you're going to answer this. The question is, if you were an item in a coffee shop, you could be anything. You can be a drink, a pastry, a non-food or drink item in a coffee shop. What would you be and why?
I love that. I would be the sunbeam coming through the light, through the window.
Oh,
Did you feel that? That's what it is. And I would shine on your coffee bean. I would shine on your laptop. I would shine on your smile. I would shine for you.
Oh my God. Oh, I got the biggest smile. Oh, right now. Shanna, this is so good. I'm so happy. I'm so glad we did this. Thank you so much for being here. And I know we're going to do more things together. So stay tuned, listeners. It's going to be something.
Yep.
All right. Thank you so much, Shanna. Big thanks again to Shanna Stevens for sharing her story so openly. These conversations are such a reminder that no pivot is too messy, too late, or too unconventional. If something she said resonated, don't keep it to yourself. Share this episode with someone you know who needs it. And when you're ready to start your own pivot, head to www.leadintact.com for free resources or book a free 20-minute call with me. I'm here for you.